Mr. Mensah, I need to explain something to you about the blood test results. Am I compatible? Can I donate?
They say every man has a breaking point. That moment when everything you believed about your life shatters like glass hitting concrete. For Michael Mensah, that moment came in a doctor's office at Rich Hospital, holding a piece of paper that would destroy 18 years of his life. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This is a story about love and lies, about honor and betrayal, about a good man pushed to the absolute edge, and about the text message that saved his life. This is Michael's story, and it starts like many Ghanaian love stories do, at the University of Ghana, Legon. Picture Michael at 26, fresh graduate, working in a bank in Accra, full of dreams and plans. Clean-shaven face, always in pressed shirts, the kind of young men mothers pointed out to their daughters at church. That one there, he has a good head on his shoulders. And he had found her, Amma Osei. They met during their first year at Legon, both studying business. She was the kind of woman who lit up a room without trying. Bright smile, intelligent eyes, and a laugh that made you want to keep talking just to hear it again. Their courtship was proper, respectful, family visits, Sunday lunches, conversations about building something real together. Both families approved. You know, in Ghana, when the families approve, it's not just about two people, it's about two lineages coming together, two futures interweaving. Michael's father, a retired civil servant, would sit with Amma's father, a teacher, discussing plans for the traditional engagement ceremony. The knocking ceremony was scheduled for December. Invitations were being printed. Michael would lie awake at night, planning. 2 children, maybe 3. A house in East Legon eventually. Growing old together, watching grandchildren play in their compound. Everything was perfect. Everything was according to plan. Until that one night when everything changed. It was supposed to be a simple celebration. A colleague's birthday at a hotel in Osu. Michael almost didn't go. He had work the next morning, but Amma encouraged him. She said, "Go and enjoy yourself small. You're always so serious." The palm wine was flowing, the beer was cold, music pounding from the speakers. Michael wasn't a drinker, never had been. But that night, something was different. The celebration, the laughter, the looseness in the air. He let his guard down. Her name was Abena. She worked in another department at the bank. Not particularly close to Michael, just familiar faces passing in corridors. But that night, with alcohol clouding judgment and music drowning out conscience, a conversation became something more. What happened in that hotel room lasted maybe an hour, but it would cost Michael 18 years of his life. He woke up the next morning with more than a hangover. The guilt hit him like a truck. Michael, who had never cheated, who prided himself on integrity, who was planning to kneel before Amma's family in a few months and promise forever, he had betrayed everything. He thought about confessing, picked up his phone a dozen times, but each time he imagined the look on Amma's face, the disappointment in her eyes. The wedding preparations would stop, the families would be humiliated, everything would crumble. So he buried it, told himself it was a mistake that would never happen again, focused on the upcoming wedding, tried to forget. For 2 months, he almost succeeded, until Abena showed up at his door. Picture this. Sunday afternoon, Michael is home reviewing wedding expenses. A knock at the door. He opens it to find Abena standing there, and immediately his stomach drops. She doesn't look well. Face drawn, eyes nervous. "We need to talk," she says. They sit in his living room. The words that come out of her mouth feel unreal, like dialogue from a movie he never wanted to watch.
I'm pregnant. It's yours.
Are you sure?
I haven't been with anyone else. I swear on my mother's life, Michael. The baby is yours.
In Ghana, you see, there are certain codes, certain unwritten laws that govern how a man of honor behaves. And Michael had been raised properly by parents who taught him that responsibility wasn't optional, that a real man faces the consequences of his actions. He sat there in his living room, looking at this woman carrying what he believed was his child, and he felt the walls of his perfect future closing in. The mathematics was brutal and simple. He could not marry Amma while another woman was pregnant with his child. The shame would be unbearable, not just for him, but for both families. For 3 days, Michael didn't eat, didn't sleep. He played out every scenario in his mind. Every option led to destruction. On the 4th day, he made his choice. He called Amma and asked to see her. How do you break the heart of someone who trusted you completely? Michael tried to find the words. They were sitting in Amma's parents' compound, under the mango tree where he'd first told her he loved her. She knew something was wrong, could see it in his face, in the way his hands trembled.
I can't marry you.
What? Michael, what are you talking about?
There's someone else. She's pregnant. I have to do the right thing.
The sound Amma made wasn't quite a scream, wasn't quite a sob. It was something deeper, the sound of a future being torn apart. She slapped him once, twice, 3 times. He didn't stop her, felt he deserved worse. Both families heard the news. The shame was crushing, suffocating. Amma's father wouldn't even look at Michael. His own mother cried for 3 days straight. But his father, stern and traditional, gave him one piece of advice. You've made your bed, my son. Now you must lie in it with honor. The traditional engagement with Amma was cancelled. Deposits lost, invitations destroyed. Amma wouldn't speak to him, wouldn't see him. Through relatives, he heard she was devastated, humiliated before the whole community. 3 months later, Michael married Abena in a small, quiet ceremony. No big celebration, just a few family members, some looking disappointed, others simply sad. The joy you expect at a Ghanaian wedding, it wasn't there. Just duty, just obligation. 6 months after that, Michael heard that Amma had met someone else, a businessman from Kumasi, good family. Within 2 years, she was married. Michael watched her wedding pictures on his phone, watching her smile, a smile that used to be meant for him, and he felt something inside him die quietly. He had done the honorable thing. He had sacrificed his happiness for responsibility. But honor, he was learning, could taste like ashes. 18 years. Let that sink in for a moment. 18 years of waking up next to a woman you didn't love. 18 years of going through the motions. 18 years of wondering what your life might have been. Abena gave birth to a daughter, Jessica, beautiful baby girl with bright eyes and a quick smile. 3 years later, a son, Jason, strong, curious, always asking questions. And here's the thing that complicated everything. Michael loved those children, genuinely, deeply loved them. From the moment he held Jessica in the hospital, something shifted. She was innocent. They both were. Whatever mess existed between him and Abena, these children deserved a father who showed up. So he showed up. Every school event, every parent-teacher meeting, homework supervision, church on Sundays, birthday parties, teaching Jason to play football, braiding Jessica's hair, the small daily acts that make a father. To outsiders, they looked like any normal Ghanaian family, the bank manager with his housewife and their 2 well-behaved children. But at night, in the silence of their bedroom, there was nothing. Abena would try sometimes, reach for him, attempt conversation, but Michael had built walls, thick, high walls. He provided, he was present for the children, but love, that had died the day he said goodbye to Amma. Sometimes, late at night, he would lie awake and think about parallel universes. In another life, was there a Michael who married Amma, who woke up happy, who didn't feel this constant dull ache of regret? But Michael would push those thoughts away. This was his life now. He'd made his choice. A man lives with his choices. 18 years of living with that choice. 18 years of quiet, grinding resignation. Until the day everything exploded. It started with Jessica feeling tired. 18 years old, normally energetic, suddenly exhausted all the time. Pale, weak. Amma thought maybe it was school stress. But when Jessica collapsed at Achimota school during PE, everything moved fast. Ridge Hospital, emergency room, doctors running tests. The diagnosis, severe anemia. She needed a blood transfusion urgently. Michael didn't hesitate. Test me, I'll donate. They took his blood, standard procedure, blood typing, compatibility screening. Michael sat in the waiting area, praying, Abena beside him, both terrified for their daughter. In moments like this, all the coldness between them disappeared. They were just two parents, desperate for their child to be okay. A doctor called Michael into a private office. Strange. Usually, they just came out and said you were compatible or not. The doctor, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, sat down, pulled out some papers.
Mr. Mensah, I need to explain something to you about the blood test results. Am I compatible? Can I donate? The issue isn't about donation, there's no easy way to say this. The blood typing reveals that you cannot be Jessica's biological father. It's genetically impossible.
Michael stared at the doctor. The words had been spoken in English, but they made no sense. Like hearing a language you almost understand but can't quite grasp. What? I'm very sorry, but based on blood genetics, you are not her father. Perhaps there was confusion about paternity or test again. Michael's voice was sharp. There's been a mistake. Test again. They tested again. Same results. Michael sat in his car at the car park. Not the father. After 18 years of braiding her hair, teaching her to ride a bicycle, walking her to school, celebrating every birthday, holding her when she cried, laughing at her jokes. Not the father. Michael went home that night and said nothing. Abena asked if he was okay, noticed his strange silence. He mumbled something about work stress. Then he went to the guest room and sat on the bed in the dark. For 2 weeks, Michael moved through life like a ghost. He couldn't look at Abena, couldn't speak to her beyond basic necessities. Watched her cook, clean, interact with the children, and a question burned in his mind like acid. If Jessica isn't mine, what about Jason? He took DNA samples, discreetly, a few strands of hair from Jason's brush, a toothbrush, went to a private lab in East Legon, paid extra for confidentiality. The waiting period was 2 weeks. Those were the longest 2 weeks of Michael's life. He watched his family like a stranger. Dinner conversations felt like scenes from a play he was no longer part of. Sunday church service, Abena praising God, and all Michael could think was, is any of this real? The envelope arrived at his office on a Thursday afternoon. Plain manila envelope. His hands shook as he opened it. Jessica Mensah, 0% probability of paternity. Jason Mensah, 0% probability of paternity. Neither child was his. Not Jessica, not Jason. Neither one. Michael sat in his car in the bank parking lot and wept like a child. Deep, broken sobs that came from somewhere he didn't know existed. 18 years. He had given up Amma, given up his dreams, given up his happiness for children that weren't his, for a lie that had stolen nearly 2 decades of his life. Abena had come to him, looked him in the eye, sworn on her mother's life that the baby was his, and he had believed her, had done the honorable thing, had sacrificed everything for a lie. That night, sitting alone in his car, something inside Michael broke. Not just broke, shattered, splintered into pieces that couldn't be put together. He thought about Amma, about the life they should have had, the children they should have made together, the mornings waking up in love instead of obligation, the years that had been stolen from him. And slowly, quietly, life began to feel meaningless. The confrontation happened on a Tuesday evening. The children were home, doing homework in their rooms. Michael walked into the living room where Abena was watching TV. He threw the DNA results onto her lap. "Read it." Abena picked up the papers confused. As she read, the color drained from her face. She looked up at Michael, mouth opening and closing, no words coming out. "Michael, don't." His voice was cold, controlled. "Don't you dare try to explain this away." "Michael, please, the children will hear." "The children?" Michael laughed, a bitter sound. "Let them hear, Abena. Let them know how you came to me, swore the baby was mine, made me destroy my future. Let them hear." Abena was sobbing now. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry," she kept saying without giving any explanation. But Michael felt nothing, just emptiness, cold, vast emptiness. That night, Michael lay on the bed in the guest room, staring at the ceiling. The days that followed were silent, frozen. He couldn't look at Abena without seeing 18 years of lies. Every morning at breakfast, every evening at dinner. Silence, thick enough to choke on. He searched for Amma on Facebook, found her easily, saw photos of her life in Kumasi. Happy husband, a son, family vacations, birthday celebrations. The life he should have had. The parallel universe where he'd made different choices. Except he hadn't made different choices. She had made them for him. Abena had stolen his choices, his agency, his future. Saturday morning arrived with unusual clarity. Bright sunshine, birds singing. The kind of Accra morning that made you grateful to be alive. Michael woke up feeling strangely calm. No anxiety, no fear. He called Jessica and Jason into the living room. "I need you two to go visit your grandmother in Tema today. Stay the night." The children exchanged glances. The tension in the house had been unbearable. Maybe this was their parents finally sorting things out, or ending things. Either way, they were relieved to escape. Jessica hugged Michael goodbye. For a moment, he froze. She smelled like the coconut oil Abena used in her hair, the same smell from when she was 3 years old. "I love you, Papa," she whispered. Something cracked inside Michael. Just a small crack, but he felt it. "I love you too," he heard himself say. Jason hugged him next. "Take care, old man," the boy joked, trying to lighten the mood. 15 years old, already taller than his mother, still not understanding how fragile everything was. They left. Then Abena also left for the market. The house fell silent. Michael sat in the empty house and felt the full weight of 18 years crashing down on him. He'd been carrying this burden for so long, being strong for everyone else. But now, alone in the silence, he realized something terrifying. He was breaking. He sat at the table, started writing letters to the children. Not goodbye letters, explanations. Apologies for the family being torn apart. Promises that they were loved. Words he needed them to have whatever happened next. "Dear Jessica, you are the most wonderful daughter a man could ask for. My love for you has been the truest thing in my life. Dear Jason, you asked me once what it means to be a man. Today, I need to show you something important. Even strong men need help sometimes." He sealed the letters, left them on the table, and realized he needed to get out of the house. The walls felt like they were closing in. He couldn't breathe. He got in his car and drove, not knowing where he was going, just needing to move. Somehow he ended up at the beach, where he proposed to Amma 18 years ago. He walked on the beach. This was where he'd been happy once, where he'd believed in the future, where everything made sense. Now, nothing made sense. He thought about the past 18 years, the sacrifice, the lie, the children he loved who weren't his, the woman he'd given up, the life he'd never lived. Who am I, he wondered. If I'm not their father by blood, if I'm not Amma's husband, if this whole life was built on lies, who am I? The emptiness inside him was vast and terrifying. For the first time in his life, Michael Mensah, the responsible one, the honorable one, the one who always did the right thing, didn't know how to keep going. He sat there as the afternoon sun moved across the sky, feeling lost in a way he'd never felt before, disconnected, adrift, like he might just disappear, end everything, forever. Then his phone buzzed once. He looked at the screen. A text from Jessica. "We love you, Dad." Michael stares at the phone, long. He thought about the letters on the table, about what giving up would do to them, and slowly something shifted inside him. Not healing, not yet, but a small flicker of something, a reason to try, a reason to stay instead of disappearing into the darkness. When Michael walked into his house, Abena was sitting on the couch. She jumped up when she saw him, relief and fear mixed on her face. She'd found the letters. They stood there, staring at each other. "Michael," she started, "I don't know who I am anymore." His voice was raw, exhausted. "I wake up angry, I sleep empty, and I'm scared, Abena. I'm scared of what this is doing to me." Abena this time told him everything. The man she'd been seeing, someone from her neighborhood, married with children. The pregnancy, the panic when she realized he wouldn't leave his wife, the calculation when she thought of Michael, good, honorable Michael, who everyone said was going to marry that Amma girl.
I know I destroyed your life. I've known it every day for 18 years. But I didn't know what else to do. I was scared and desperate, and I made a terrible, terrible choice.
Michael listened. Abena moved closer, tears streaming. "I'm so sorry. Michael, I'm so sorry for what I did." "I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry doesn't give me back 18 years. They sat in heavy silence. He looked at Abena. "I can't stay in this marriage. I won't. We're done, Abena. We're finished." Abena nodded through her tears. "I understand. I'll keep supporting the children. I love them. That part was always real. But you and me, we're over. I'm filing for divorce." He stood up slowly. "I'm going to stay at a hotel tonight. Tomorrow, I'll start finding an apartment. You'd better start looking for a new place because this place will be sold. And as for the children, we'll tell them together, honestly." They told Jessica and Jason the following week. Both children sitting on the couch, parents standing before them like defendants at trial. Michael explained it all, the DNA tests, the truth about paternity, the lies that had built their family. But also this, he loved them. That part was never a lie. Biology didn't erase 18 years of fatherhood. Jessica cried. Jason sat in silence, processing, his face unreadable. They asked questions. Some Michael could answer, others had no good answers. "Are you still our father?" Jason finally asked. "In every way that matters, yes, I raised you. That's real, but I can't stay married to your mother." The children nodded. On some level, they'd seen this coming. The house had been too cold, too broken for too long. Michael found a small apartment in cantonments. Not much, 2 bedrooms, modest furnishings. But it was his. No lies lived there. The divorce proceedings were surprisingly simple. Abena didn't contest anything. Michael provided generously for the children, school fees, living expenses, and more. He threw himself into work, got promoted to senior manager at the bank, started exercising again, early morning runs through his neighborhood. Slowly, the bitterness began to release its grip. He saw Jessica and Jason every weekend, took them for lunch. The relationship changed, became more honest in a way, no more pretending. They knew the truth now, and they were building something real on that foundation. At night, though, alone in his apartment, Michael felt the loneliness. The deep, aching loneliness of a man who'd lost 18 years and didn't know if he had the energy to start over. He was 44 years old. Not old, but not young either. The dating apps his friends suggested seemed exhausting. The idea of explaining his complicated family situation to a new woman seemed impossible. So he focused on work, on the children, on healing, and tried not to think about what might have been. 14 months after the divorce, Michael was having dinner with an old university mate, Kojo, at a restaurant in Osu. They'd reconnected recently. Kojo had heard about the divorce through the alumni network and reached out. They were catching up, talking about old times at Legon, when Kojo mentioned casually,
Ah, sad news about Amma. You remember her, right?
Michael looked at him. Amma? What about her? Her husband passed away. Cancer. Fought it for 2 years, but it's tragic. The restaurant suddenly felt too loud. When? About 6 months ago. She moved back to Accra from Kumasi, wanted to be closer to her family. Michael sat back in his chair. Amma? Back in Accra? Widowed. He felt a rush of emotions he couldn't quite name. Sadness for her loss. Her husband had been a good man by all accounts. But also something else. Something he felt guilty for feeling. Hope? She's staying with her son in Zoulu, Kojo continued. I saw her at the mall last week. She looked tired, but still beautiful. Still that same smile. That night, Michael lay awake thinking about Amma. He'd successfully pushed her to the back of his mind for years. What was the point of dwelling on what couldn't be? But now she was in Accra, single, and he was finally free of the lie that had defined his adult life. But was it too soon? She'd lost her husband. He'd just gone through a traumatic divorce. What would people say? More importantly, after everything that had happened, after all the years and pain and separate lives, was there anything left between them? Michael took his iPad, opened Facebook, found her profile. The most recent photo was from her husband's funeral, Amma in black, face drawn with grief. He couldn't just message her out of nowhere. Not now. Not like this. He put his iPad away and tried to sleep. But in his dreams, he was 24 again, sitting under a mango tree at Legon, listening to Amma laugh. 3 months later, Saturday afternoon at the Accra Mall. Michael had come to buy a new phone. His old one was dying. He was in the food court, taking a break, when he saw her. Amma. She was sitting alone at a table, reading a book, a cup of coffee in front of her. She wore a simple dress, her hair natural, just like he remembered. There was something different about her, a sadness in the way she held herself. But she was still Amma. Amma? She looked up. For a moment, her face was blank with surprise. Then recognition flooded in. Michael!
I'm sorry, I don't mean to disturb you. I saw you and
No, it's fine. Please sit.
He sat down across from her, and for a few seconds they just looked at each other. 24 years since they'd first met. Almost 20 years since they'd sat across from each other like this. I heard about your husband, Michael said softly. I'm so sorry. Amma's eyes glistened. Thank you. He was a good man. Fought hard, but she shook her head. I heard about your divorce as well. The alumni network is worse than the grapevine, Michael tried to joke. I didn't know the details, just that things ended. And so Michael told her everything. The party, Abena's pregnancy, the sacrifice he'd made, the 18 years, the DNA revelation, the day he almost ended it all, the divorce. Michael listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Michael, I don't even know what to say. I destroyed our future for a lie, he said simply. I've had to live with that. You did what you thought was honorable. That's who you are. Who I was. I don't know who I am anymore. They talked for 3 hours. Amma shared her story, her marriage, her husband's battle with cancer, her son, the grief that still felt fresh, the loneliness. I loved him, she said, but I'd be lying if I did say I never thought about you, about what we could have been. I thought about you every day, Michael admitted, for 18 years. When they finally exchanged phone numbers and said goodbye, something had shifted. Some door that had been closed for 2 decades had cracked open. Not wide, not yet, but open. They started texting, calling, simple messages at first. How was your day? Did you see the news about? Remember that lecturer at Legon who? Weeks passed. The calls became longer, more frequent. They met for coffee, then lunch, then dinner. It was strange getting to know each other again. They were different people now, shaped by 2 decades of separate lives, separate losses, separate growth. But the foundation was still there. The chemistry that had drawn them together in their 20s was still present, just matured, deepened by experience. Michael met Amma's son, 12 years old. He was very polite. Amma met Jessica and Jason. That was harder. The children knew Amma's name, knew she was the woman their father was meant to marry. The encounter was emotional, awkward, but ultimately gentle. Amma treated them with kindness, understanding they were caught in circumstances beyond their control. Michael and Amma moved slowly, carefully. Neither wanted to rush. They'd rushed before, been swept up in young love without understanding how fragile happiness could be. Now they were older, scarred, cautious, but also more sure of what they wanted. 6 months after the mall meeting, they went to Labadi Beach at sunset, sat on the sand watching the waves. I lost 18 years, Michael said quietly. And you lost years too. I'm sorry for the part I played in that. We were both victims of circumstances, and we both found other forms of happiness in different ways. I had a good marriage. You raised 2 children who love you. But now, she looked at him, now we get a chance not many people get, a second chance. 2 years after their reunion, 3 years after Michael's divorce, Michael and Amma are planning a wedding. Small, intimate, just close family and friends. No big fanfare. They've both had enough of performance, of appearances. They're at Labadi Beach again, same spot as before. The sun is setting, painting the Atlantic orange and gold. Accra stretches behind them, alive and chaotic as always. You know what's funny, Michael says. This is where I used to come when everything was falling apart. After the DNA results, after the confrontation with Abena, I'd sit here in the dark and just exist. And now I'm here with you and it's light. That sounds corny, but it's not corny. Amma takes his hand. It's true. They sit in comfortable silence watching the waves. So much has happened, so much pain, so much loss, but also healing, growth, second chances. As the sun dips below the horizon, Michael thinks about everything that brought him there. All of it, the pain, the loss, the near destruction, led to this moment. On a beach in Accra, with the woman he was always meant to be with, finally getting their second chance. Life had taken almost everything from him, but it had also given him something precious, the opportunity to choose differently, to choose life over death, healing over harm, love over bitterness.
Ready to head home?
Yeah, I'm ready.
They walk along the beach, hand in hand, heading toward whatever future awaits them. Not perfect. Life is never perfect. Not without scars. Both of them carry too many. But together. Finally, truly together. Behind them, the ocean continues its eternal rhythm, washing away footprints in the sand, making room for new ones. The story of a man who almost did the unthinkable, who almost ended it all in the worst possible way because of a lie, but who chose in the end to live, and in living found his way back to love. This is Michael's story, a story about betrayal and second chances, about how close we can come to destroying ourselves, and how sometimes, if we're lucky, we find our way back to the light.